The central services projects, those 3 line items for a total of $355,000, those are rollover items from fiscal '24. We cover those. We just haven't gotten to those yet. Then the next being Deer Run, their restroom partition replacement. That's $15,000. The Spencer line items for $60,000, heating and cooling, that's the system analysis and solution. That relates to the open floor plan and issues that we've had in various branches as far as one area being cold, the other warm, etc. So that is still being addressed. The outdoor canopy, that is just the remainder of outstanding finishes that won't be complete until July. There are some items that are on order, so they'll be needing to be done in fiscal '25. At Corporate Parkway, we've got the soundproofing of the manager's office for $10,000 and a meeting room divider solution for $20,000. That divider is very outdated. We also need to address IT-wise their audio system. And then we have Catherine Linneman, the parking lot mill and overlay for $95,000. That's something that we know we need to do based on our facility assessment. We will need to time that in conjunction with the Sibley sidewalk project, so that they've proposed widening our entrance there. So again, we'll work with the city on that. And then we've got the building envelope waterproofing for $75,000. That is something that was identified when we went through the renovations due to the flood damage. So that will be addressed. Augusta, we are rolling over the Open Plus with the build out for that branch, which provides unstaffed hours so that we can expand customer access. Then at Mindorf-Cradell, here we have the renovations we had to roll over that we won't get to in fiscal '24. I've added the HVAC units that will be discussed later this evening. Parking lot repair, seal and stripe for $150,000. Like Spencer, we know that we need to do it. We'd like to coordinate that with the closing due to the renovations. So that will go out to bid by us. The sliding automatic doors, that's another thing that needs to be addressed. Sorry, item that's, they're aging and there's issues with our front doors here. So those will be replaced. And then there's the roof replacement for $326,000. That is an item that was already bid. So we know the amount, we just need to schedule it in coordination with the renovations. Next branch is Boone's Trail. That is an additional open plus and build out that's rolled over from fiscal '24 for $30,000. Then we have Winghaven, the fence, handrails, canopy, and sidewalks. That is actually adding more customer space, usable space to the outdoors there. They actually have a really nice outdoor area, but limited furniture and use of that. So that will be addressed this year, as well as adding Open Plus and build out to that branch as well for customer access. So questions?
Questions for Julie on the capital budget?
Question.
Go ahead, Nevada.
How does the capital budget compare to last year? Like I know the increase is, or doesn't say.
It's on my financial statement, just a moment. So the budget for this year is $4.6 million, but that is inclusive of some of these items that are the rollover items. The main ones being MK renovations and central services, basically additional changes to our building.
So part of it that we're rolling over, the 4.6,
Mm-hmm.
is that will actually be from last fiscal year?
Correct.
Okay.
So those were dollars that were earmarked but not used.
Okay.
So right now we're on track to use probably 1.7 million of that amount from last year to conclude fiscal '24.
And some things could be allocated for these projects, and then depending on what happens during the next fiscal year, do we get to them? Are there complications? They could be rolled over just like this year.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And at some point, we'll move funds into the capital fund for these projects.
That is something that we'd like to do by the
Yeah.
fiscal year end, and that
Okay.
will be reflected in our audited financial statement.
Any other questions for Julie? Anybody on the phone have questions?
No.
All right, well, that is the last presentation we had for our work session. We will adjourn our work session and then take a 5-minute break and then come back for the regular meeting. Good to go. Okay. We're going to go ahead and call the regular meeting to order. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, up next is the roll call.
Renee Tillman,
Here.
Richard Gardner,
Here.
Nevada Smith,
Here.
Josiah Schmidt,
Here.
TJ Raines,
Here.
Stacy Alvarez,
Here.
Buddy Harden,
Here.
Matthew Seeds,
Here.
Justin Collier.
Here.
We have everyone present.
Great, thank you. Up next on the agenda is public comment. We have one person here to provide public comment. And, oh my gosh, I think it's Rachel. I think I mispronounced it last time. Rachel Brandel. You'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy that I'm the only one today because I get to share good words and happy words with you all, that we love you and appreciate you so much. So I do want to talk about HB 2498, which I know there are others who are going to speak on this tonight as well. But I would like to tell a little story to go along with that. So to keep it very vague, there was a public library up in a northern state that the community decided, because of certain books in its collection, to defund the library. And when they did, they lost all their librarians, and that entire library shut down for a time. And the community did not realize how much the library did for them. And when they did, they said, oh goodness, we need to fund the library once again. And they got their funding back, but they lost all of their librarians. And that really hit the community so hard, and they still have not recovered. So this bill coming in would like to create the board into elected officials, as you all know. And looking at the documents that were presented to our representatives, it would cost St. Charles County $100,000 to close to $500,000 a year to fund this kind of election. And I think it's awesome. I did not realize this was happening until I got here, that we just had a whole presentation about the budget. And the only thing I could think was, there's $100,000. There's $100,000 again and again. So I had actually looked through the website to see all the things that this awesome library does, because when I have talked to some of our representatives, they didn't even know all the amazing things you guys did. So just remembering that if we lose that $100,000 to $500,000, that is going to be the telescopes, that's going to be the memory kits, that's going to be the hotspots and the computers. It's going to be our amazing programming. It's going to be the passport. It's going to be the notary. It's going to be amazing librarians. It's just going to hurt the community. This is not going to help the community in any way, because my personal belief is we have great board members. So we have a great system already. The only thing we're going to lose is all of the amazing benefits that the library already brings to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is reports and correspondence. The first report is the Chief Financial Officer's report.
Okay. So at March 31, we're ahead of budget as far as revenues. We're at 106%. That's being boosted by Missouri State Aid, our Emergency Connectivity Fund amounts for hotspots, as well as investment income results. So you'll also see that salaries and benefits, like the previous months, we're under budget, and that's tracking with our staffing challenges at 88.5%. We're on target as far as our library materials. Technology and telecommunications, that's over budget, and again, that's related to the Emergency Connectivity Fund expenses for our hotspots. And then we are running under budget as far as other ops. And then right now, our capital expenditures are at $1 million as of March 31. So if you have any questions?
Any questions for Julie? Does anyone on the phone have questions for Julie on her report? All right, thank you very much. Up next is the Chief Communication and Engagement Officer's report.
I just have one thing I want to point out. The library receipt savings campaign that we did on Facebook. We asked customers to share a copy at the bottom of their receipts. We really did ask them only to share the bottom of their receipts, although some were very generous and showed us the whole thing. But we received more than 130 responses, and the amounts were crazy. But we had one customer who, since January of 2019, has saved $196,188 by using library materials and not purchasing them. So we were pretty impressed with that and had a lot of lovely comments. And it was just nice to have everybody, they were very excited to share the savings that they've received. So wanted to point that out, and you guys can read the rest. Any questions?
Any questions on the report? Great, thank you very much. Up next is the Chief Administrative Officer's report.
So I've asked Aaron to talk a little bit about the Kale region and what's been going on there. Maggie's going to talk about what's been going on around the district around programming. And Carol's going to talk a little bit about collections.
Good evening. So with the Spencer Road branch being closed right now, some of the programs that were normally done on a sort of yearly basis, some of those have been moved somewhere else. So we were able to host a quilting sort of exhibition at Catherine Linneman and had over 100 people walk through on a Saturday, which was really cool to see. And people participating in different quilting programs over the course of the year, getting to show off the work that they've done. Also have a staff member who actually went and presented at another branch at the Kiska Road location. They raise chickens and just teaching how they do that to children and families. So that was a really fun, interactive program and adorable kids getting to hold the little chicks. And then there's a really fun story of just the impact that our resources have on families in some basic but really cool ways, and just the appreciation that a family has for the staff and the things that they do for them. And I would also just want to say, as an update for the sort of unintended teen policy procedure, that is continuing to go well. It's continuing to do the things that we would hope. And I'd say one of the biggest differences I've noticed over the course of the years, just that interacting with parents, which did not happen the first couple of years. And now because we're being able to interact with them more directly, there's been parental interaction, and that has helped with student behaviors. So that's continued to go very, very, very well.
I figure you all have already heard from me enough tonight, so you can read most or everything that I put under adult and youth services in the packet, but I wanted to highlight something that I didn't put in the packet, which is on March 7th. Some of us in my department went to the statewide Missouri Parks and Recreation Conference and worked with the St. Charles County Parks Department and did a joint presentation with them about library and parks partnerships. And it went really well, and it was really great. Another really great way we've partnered with the St. Charles County Parks. We mainly talked about storybook walks, but other things that we've done with them, and we've built a really great relationship with a lot of the parks in the community as a whole, but St. Charles County Parks especially. So.
And I just wanted to point out that we are, from the collections department, now working on the collections at Mittendorf-Cradell in anticipation of their renovation. A little bit different than what we did with Spencer. We do have some special collections at this location that we are going to permanently relocate. It's been under discussion for a while. We like the idea of getting them a little bit more centrally located. This branch is extremely busy, and although we are moving these collections to another very busy branch, it's a very busy branch with a little bit more square footage, and it's just going to be a better setup. So the GovDoc collection, we are a federal depository library, is going to be relocated to Spencer Road. So the timing is not 100% yet, but we want to have it, available as long as possible. So it will be, when we are getting very close to Spencer Road opening, we will pack up that collection and move it. We are going to have it on the second floor of Spencer in the northwest corner. So it's going to be kind of in like a quiet nook. That collection is not going to grow anymore because the printing of physical GovDocs is basically non-existent moving forward. So we are just going to house what we have, and that resource will continue to be there for the community until they no longer need the physical documents. The other collection that's going to be permanently relocated is our local author collection. So one of the things that the authors in our community have the opportunity to do is have their book donated and put on the shelf in the library. We actually do catalog it, and we make a record, and we put it in the World Share catalog, that if other libraries buy their book, they can use our original cataloging of it, and it's available to check out just like any other item. And again, kind of the same process as GovDocs. As we approach the Spencer Road reopening, we will have a better timeline on when that's going to be packed up and moved from here. So that's freeing up a lot of space here just to spread out the collection, grow some of the physical collection that needs more space, and just gives MK like a better floor plan moving into the future after their renovation.
Thank you. Was that all? Does anyone have any questions on the Chief Administrative Officer's report? All right. Up next is the Chief Executive Officer's report.
Thank you. You'll see on the first page of the written report, I included some photographs of the Spencer Road progress. Unfortunately, I took them a couple of days too early because right now the carpet has been installed, so it looks significantly different and further along than these show. But I think you can see how it is coming together, and that the choice to go forward and paint the second floor was a wise one. I think it blends together much better. As Julie noted, there are going to be a couple of things related to the canopy that carry over into fiscal 25. That's due primarily to the skylight will not arrive, which is fine. I mean, we can open the branch and everything, and then the skylight will be installed when it arrives. Otherwise, everything is on track. On the second page, there were 4 change orders that I approved over since your last meeting, and you can see what those are for there. They were mostly related to painting. The Spencer Road parking lot that we discussed last meeting and you allocated $175,000 for, we did get those bids back, and the low bid was $163,61. So we will move forward with Byrne & Jones construction on that project. As mentioned, House Bill 2498 and 2648 have both progressed out of committee, but there's been no further action there. Those are the ones that relate to transitioning library boards from appointed positions to elected ones. At your meeting last month, we had said that we would be bringing forward the proposal from the city related to the construction easement and land donation around Catherine Linneman. We did get that from them like midweek. It was around Wednesday of last week. That was not enough time for our legal team to review it and we continue to have some questions about it. So we informed them that it wouldn't be until next month at the earliest. Julie and I have a call with the attorney tomorrow, I believe, to discuss our questions with her. So, and I guess that's it. Can I answer any questions?
Questions for Jason on his report? And the skylight is for the outside? of the
Yeah,
building?
so this is something that they did at Cliffview as well, and it was because the canopy is going over where there was already windows. It's basically to continue to let natural light into the building. So it's a covered skylight, but it will allow natural light to get inside the building and into those windows.
Okay. And so when we got the presentation from the city about the Sibley construction easement, we had asked them to provide some additional diagrams about the existing easement and the proposed changes. Did they provide that?
They provided a diagram.
So no.
Well, they did.
That's part of what we want to discuss with the
Okay.
attorney. So we want that, we want them to handle, I think, that piece of it. So the way they combine the Sibley sidewalk project with, they're wanting to remedy what they say are the outstanding easement issues was peculiar, because to me, they're two separate issues and they could have addressed it as such. So unfortunately, they combined the two.
Okay.
And I think their main contact is basically experienced in the sidewalk piece of it, being from the engineering department, but we really do need the legal aspect as far as, right to our land and that type of thing.
Yeah, okay. And sorry, last question. On the reconsideration request, I'm guessing due to our policy, the 3 new requests are on completely different materials than
Yes,
3 that are
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have questions for Jason on his report? Excellent. Next up is the statistical report.
Really not much to highlight here. I did just want to point out that we did see a slight decrease in use in March 24 back from March 23, but our year-to-date use comparison is still up over fiscal year 23. Answer any questions?
Any questions on the statistical report? Up next is correspondence. Jason did share an email that was submitted to the board's library email, so that was available.
Yeah, and actually, if just a little explanation there. So we send the approved minutes and the various staff reports to the county executive and the mayor every month after the meeting. And the correspondence was from the mayor. It was from Mayor Borgmeyer. And I did answer it because I was included as well. So it went to the board and me. So I went ahead and I answered it. If the board would like to answer on their own, I can certainly send that along as well. But I think you'll see my explanation there. And just to talk about it a little here, on the reconsideration requests, when we note the nature of the challenge, and I think it was kind of misinterpreted as that's what we determined the books to be. So the question was related to, 2 of them were termed sexually explicit but treated differently, and I just want to emphasize that's the nature of the challenge, that the challenger is saying it is not the determination of the library necessarily. So, and that was the explanation that I gave the mayor.
Great. Any questions from anyone on that? All right. Up next is our consent agenda. On the consent agenda are our draft meetings from our regular March 19th meeting and our closed meeting from March 19th. I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved. We have one item of new business. We have no unfinished business this evening. Our new item is 24-30, approval of change order to the MK construction contract.
Yeah, and I'll address this a little bit, and we do have Greg from Addison Young here as well, who can answer some questions perhaps better than I can. So thank you, Greg, for being able at somewhat short notice to be here tonight. Just for some background, and I did send something out to you via email as well for further explanation, but so the 3 rooftop units in question were listed on our facilities condition assessment report as due for replacement in 2020 and 2021. You all know what was happening at that time and what supply chain issues were like, so that didn't happen at that point, but we were able to keep them limping along until now, but they are certainly at end of life. But that was on the notion of they were just 1-for-1 replacements, not taking into account changes to the building itself that we are now doing as part of the renovation. So we did put in that bid package that was ultimately awarded to Aspire Construction, one of 10 alternates was to just provide what pricing for doing a 1-to-1 replacement of those 3 units were. And you see in my memo, the range of price from $186,000 to $230,000, but that would not be taking into account integrating them into the new building and the new floor plan. So we brought in an engineer to look at the system and design sort of what would be necessary in order to make those improvements to the ducts, the controls, the VAV boxes, and so forth. And that was put forward in the form of a change order because there was HVAC work happening as part of the base bid. So we already have firms that are doing HVAC work. So it's not something that we could bid out separately and award to a different contractor because they would be doing, obviously, 2 contractors working on the same system. So what we have here is a change order that for $375,168.19 and you see the scope there to replace the 3 rooftop units, add 9 VAV boxes, new controls, and all of the connecting ductwork beyond what was included in the original scope. Greg, did you have anything to add at this point? And
Very great job.
very great.
I took it from beginning all the way to the end.
Well,
And
I'm a storyteller.
I guess I would just say one thing overall, and not speaking specific to this change order per se, but other than opportunity, because it's the point you made about the equipment, the 3 rooftop units basically at the end of their life cycle. Now's the time to do it. Now's the time to do it. When the library is completely shut down, all this other work going on, now is the time to do it. To try and do that later on, because you will have to, given the condition of the existing units, it would seriously impact the library, just the moving of books, the disruption, probably shut it down for another 2 months. The cost, I think, would be more down the road. So the opportunity is to do it now. That's all I would add to that. It's already torn up, so do it now.
So you said we already had an HVAC sub on board for work. So I'm assuming there was already a line item in the Prime's budget for that HVAC work. Is this 375 on top of the work we were already having done or inclusive of?
Yes, and I will say, and Greg can speak to this, we asked that question repeatedly and in very different ways. They did a lot of work to go through and make sure nothing in this change order was duplicative of something that was already covered in the base bid.
And we also worked with the designers and the engineers, as they're looking at the drawings, original drawings issued, the new drawings issued for the new scope of work, and they even went through and highlighted, this is base bid, this is new work, to make sure everything was clean. And make sure all the scope was covered, that we didn't miss anything, because I don't want to come back later and say, oops, you know, so just to make sure that it was distinctly defined and everything covered.
So what exactly is different? So originally, when we did the alternate, we were going to do a one-to-one replacement of the unit. It looks like, I mean, do we have 3 units now and we're still replacing 3 units?
Yes.
So what is different that would cost us an additional $145,000 from what we originally thought on the alternate?
It's all the inside work. The units sit outside on the north side of the building. Anticipated was correcting what I understand somewhat of a inefficient system. The controls aren't operating and interfacing properly. And with the new configuration of the walls, with the new renovation, that design, bringing in new VAV boxes at better locations and getting controls throughout the entire system so that your controls are controlling from the rooftop units all the way into the rooms or whatever the spaces are. And that also involves tearing out, you know, an extreme amount of ceilings. So ceilings are added to it, new electrical panels are added to it, all the wiring, all new electrical, just power wiring, and then all the controls wiring. So to bring a complete operating system and basically fix what seems to be, and I don't live here, I live in O'Fallon, but I don't, you know, come to the library on a regular basis. I don't work in the library, but I can, sorry, but I did.
You're fired.
I said, well, I did this afternoon come in here. I just was looking at something, came in at 3 o'clock this afternoon and sat back by the adult fiction area, and I'm going, dang, it feels muggy in here. And so it's just a small little experience personally, but it's kind of reassures what I've been told has been kind of an ongoing issue. And I know Julie mentioned earlier at Spencer, some rooms are hot, some are cold. So it's gonna fix all of that once and for all.
Well,
So I don't know if I answered your question, but that's
speaking
basically-
for myself, it would be nice if this room was less hot. Is this going to affect the schedule for the renovation at all?
It will.
Yes.
It will extend it about, and we'll work with the contractor on it, but right now they're projecting about 3 to 4 weeks, an extension of the schedule. And the critical thing about that is the sooner they can order these units, because lead times right now on HVAC, it's kind of all over the place, but they can go from anywhere from 6, 8 months to a year. And we're obviously want to get this done as soon as we can.
So the game plan would be to go ahead and place the order for the units, even though this branch is obviously still open, so that we don't.
Well, we would approve this change order so we can move forward. It's just to get the whole process going.
Okay. Any other questions? Sure.
So originally, the original range was 186 to 230.
Correct.
Was that before the renovation, or did that factor in the renovation?
That did not factor in there. That literally just replaced the units.
That was just strict the replacement
Yep.
cost?
Correct.
And then because of the renovations that we're doing, now seeing other pieces, we need to make adjustments to HVAC, besides the fact that
That's
it needs to be
a
replaced.
piece of it. Yeah.
So that's where it started. So our facilities manager, during the assessment, these units are 18 years old.
That was my next question.
So she started out with, okay, we can just outright replace the units. But then with knowing the airflow issues in this building, then when they went and they did the design, we're adding study rooms with that. If you were to close the door in a study room right now without this reconfiguration, you'd probably suffocate. So We knew that it needed to be done, like in other buildings that we have, but with this, it was the opportune time to actually have the engineer do it properly, so that we have, you know, that airflow and what have you. And as well, we'd have to replace rooftop units regardless.
So, the other was, we approve it, and we would start with ordering the units, but the units could take 6 months to a year to get here?
Yes.
And when is the expected renovation of MK?
Beginning in June-ish or July, growing, it would be into 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were thinking February, March, that's the 8 to 9 month time frame.
So we would not do the renovations until we had the units? So
No.
Okay,
No.
okay.
But would we, like, let's say we start the renovation, it takes a year for these units to get here. Would we have to keep MCLA closed longer than we would have anticipated because we wouldn't want to open it and then close it again for 2 months?
Right, that's.
Yeah. That could be worst case, I'm giving you worst case
Yeah.
scenario, because I don't want to paint this picture then there. But right now, the contractor's saying that they can still get here in time to fit that schedule. We'll add about 3 or 4 weeks. That's taking that into account, so that pushes us out to March.
And we can install HVAC units outside in March here?
We're in that transition window, that's a very good question. You're in that transition window. So, but the library won't be open until we get that done. So they'll maintain its condition in there throughout, they meaning the contractor, throughout construction. And obviously, they're not gonna take these offline. They'll continue to use them and get a lot of the work done inside. So then it's a quick, maybe a few days, pop out, pop the new ones in, commission them, getting them running. Yeah, so the system will still condition the building.
Okay.
So that was my question. You'll be doing the internal work before the units get the big units get put in?
Oh, yeah. Otherwise,
Ductwork, wiring, all that kind of stuff?
yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, you know, to your point, we would be waiting for
Okay.
that. So it all goes forward, get it all ready. As soon as the units get here, quick change around during a week. I'm saying a few days, a week, because you gotta get them online, tested, make sure everything's functioning properly.
And we would expect the MK project to hopefully happen next February?
We were targeting February, March. It's something we're constantly monitoring with the contractor. So I think that's where we were on our last assessment with them. We'll know more actually in a little bit here.
But the idea would be to time it with the unit replacement.
Absolutely.
And what's the expected life of the new units? Like, is 18 us way overextending our current life? I mean, we expect to get 10 years out of it. Is it 20? What is it?
That's more of a mechanical engineering question, but I would say in the 15-year plus or minus range, kind of where you're at right now at the end of the cycle, which is 18 years.
We've gotten pretty much 15 years out of our units. We have a preventive maintenance program that's been really good to us. And we've gotten 15 to 20 years out of some of them. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Julie.
And then that 375, that's what is reflected on the capital budget that you presented earlier, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
How much are the actual units? So, I mean, I see the stuff for labor, materials, equipment, does not seem high enough to cover 3 HVACs. So, is it in Elite Mechanical's budget, the actual units themselves?
It is, and I did ask that question, and it's about $235,000 just for the units.
So, I guess the other thing I want to ask about, this is a very large amount of money to essentially sole source. So what assurance do we have that the rates we're being quoted from our existing contractor are competitive?
Well, we just looked at it from an overview that it seemed to make sense based on the scope of work that we're doing. We had a little bit of a baseline to begin with because it was bid competitively just for the units. So we know that that component, which is over half of it just on mechanical. But then again, what's left, I'm speaking just mechanical now, that seemed to make sense based on that scope of work. Obviously, if we were out competitively bidding it, you would get a little bit better numbers. But to Jason's point earlier, we do stick with the same contractor that's on board. We can't, with warranties, and DeQuincy would go nuts. Well, this was done by this contractor, this was done by, it just makes no sense. It'd be an absolute nightmare. In addition to that, that's the mechanical side, but then there's a lot of, the ceilings, about 10,000 square feet of additional ceiling that's gotta come out and go back in. So there's all that additional work as well. And of course, the electrical, we've been focusing mechanical, but electrical as well, all the new controls, a new 250 amp panel, I believe it is. So when you look at all of that, it seems to make sense based on the scope that's there.
So the sheet in here from Elite Mechanical has the cost that's more for the units. And there's obviously, it says, doesn't include electrical and wiring, does not include penetration through walls, does not include seals, does not include structural work. Is that all on the other part of it by Aspire? Like all of that is covered?
You have the electrical behind the one
Yes.
for Elite. So that's the second, there's 21,000 for the electrician.
So between BRDA and Aspire, that will cover everything else that Elite Mechanical doesn't?
Correct.
Okay.
We went specifically over that with Aspire and said, in fact, I was the one that said, there's a gap in the action, and to the exact same points that you just had. Make sure they're covered, make sure, yes, we got that covered, we got the opening penetrations covered. So that's a very good point, and we did our best to make sure that there were no gaps in the action.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any contingency built into this in case there's like a price change on the units that we weren't expecting, or something else that happens while they're doing this installation or anything like that?
There's just the overall contingencies on the whole program.
Okay,
Between Spencer Road and NK.
okay,
We didn't put a specific contingency in these numbers.
okay.
But I would assume, it sounds like if we approve this, we would order the units now because it takes a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming at the time we order it, that's the price, correct?
Now, they will hold their price, I forget what it is, but it's in Elite's, it was like 30 days, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't say, but this is dated April 12th, so I'm assuming it's relatively recent.
Yeah, I know I read it, I don't see it right here. But I think it was 30 days that I saw it. Because during COVID, you forget about it.
Right.
Subcontractors, suppliers, subcontractors would not hold their price because manufacturers couldn't guarantee anything price-wise or delivery. That has now leveled off some, but there's still a little remnants of it.
You may remember the bookmobile.
Oh, I do.
And the vans, did we ever get our van? Yeah.
So the good news is that has leveled off, and based on what I know today on our discussions and based on what was compiled for this change order, the bases seem to be covered, and there'd be a little lag in ordering. We're not gonna order tomorrow, but we're meeting tomorrow, Jason, with the contractors, so if this is approved, we can say go. We know the engineers, make sure all the product data, and I know I'm speaking technical here, and the shop drawings, everything's 100%, this is the unit, sign off, boom, go, order. And I know your designer's very, very responsive in those kinds of situations, so it would move very quickly.
Other questions?
Yes.
Sure.
So what type of system do we have right now? Are they single zone rooftops? Are they multi-zone BAV rooftops? Or what exactly do we have right now?
I think it's a mix. It's
It's a mix.
single zone, in areas, and there's more than just one area covered. So we'd look at the zones. They're just doing, I would have to look, to be honest, to which of the 3 units do which areas.
Okay.
But it's the controls that's part of the problem from what I understand. So we'd have to look, to your point, definitely make sure that the zones make sense again, that this unit and this unit are covering these different zones, and these different zones. I think they've got it split up. I can't answer
Yeah,
right
would
now.
that be information that they have? I mean, I would think they would have to have that at this point to price it accordingly.
Yeah. I just don't,
You're not a mechanical engineer.
I'm not a
Right.
mechanical
Right.
engineer, and I trust their judgment so far. But I do know, to your point, absolutely, zoning is so critical in terms of distance. This unit and the duct runs cover this distance, and this one covers those, and this one covers this end of the branch, center of the branch, and it depends on the activity and the people loads as well, the open areas, your center versus your office areas.
Okay.
So I kind of danced around that a little bit. I apologize, but
That's okay.
I do know that it is part of looking at which zone, which unit will do.
Okay. And are either of these contractors union contractors?
They are not.
Okay. Thank you.
Will Elite maintain the units long? How do we know how that would work? Or do we maintain our own units? Do we just call somebody if something happens? Is that like factored in here at all?
I think you have a company. I'm not in what DeQuincy does, but I do know that there are a company that, Julie, who does your maintenance on?
CNS does primary maintenance, Spencer is Wigman.
Okay.
We have those units, so.
And do we currently have 3 units?
We do.
And we're replacing them, and so it's not, besides the fact that they're old, it's not just those units, it's the way the ductwork runs, and it's the way they're currently zoned that's creating problems
It's
as well.
the zones and the controls, controlling the zones and the signals that feed to the VAV box, which pushes out the air through these vents up here. I don't know the details other than it's been a history, and I'm being informed this by the library that it's been an ongoing issue, and now's the time to fix it.
One more question. On the controls, not to get too far in the weeds here, but.
I'll answer it if I can.
Okay. So we have existing controls.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna bring in a new system with new controls. Has any thought been given to any integration of the system into one, so we don't have 2 separate systems within one building?
It'll all be one system.
We're just
Just one control system from what I understand. Yeah, you don't want part of the control, you can't have part of the controls doing this and another part of, that's kind of part of the problem, I think. Now, not that there's 2 different control systems, but my understanding is that it would be one control system, uniform within the building.
Anything else? Does anyone on the phone have questions about this item?
Do we utilize any building management system that this would integrate with?
Not currently.
Do we know what kind of control system is being provided?
Specifics I do not know.
I didn't know which one they went with. I know it was Johnson or another one. It would make sense to go, you could go with the same manufacturer here. I'm sorry, I just didn't know that question. I don't think, no, he didn't say.
Any other questions or discussion on this item? If not, I will accept a motion to approve the staff's recommendation for this change order.
I make a motion to approve the change order.
We need to be more specific.
I would say yes.
Second.
So we have a motion to authorize the CEO to sign the change order number 9 to expand the scope of MK's renovation contract to include the replacement of 3 rooftop air handling units and the addition of 9 VAV boxes, new controls, and connecting ductwork. Total amount not to exceed $375,168.19. We have a second on that by Renee, I do believe.
I second.
Any further questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
That motion passes. All right, we do have an item on the agenda for a closed meeting, but I don't think we need to do that this evening. So that was the last item on our agenda, and I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you.
You second?
Yep.